there's that quote that everybody listening is familiar with. You are a collection of the 5 people that you spend your the most time with, right? This idea of like, we really just kind of become the persons that we spend our time with. And I think that, yes, although that is true, there's not enough of a like tone on, well, that means that there are people in the world where you're like 20% of who they are, right? So who are you, and what contribution do you play in the lives of others? And I think that is missing from the current definition of strong community. So that's where we can explore. It's about the community itself, but then it's also about the role that we play as a member of that community.
Welcome to the On the Path podcast, a conversation on navigating life. Join Chris Coker and Colin Creech as they have honest conversations with fellow travelers on the path. In each episode, they explore the physical, mental, and spiritual health aspects of the whole self, striving for personal accountability and a strong community. Gain insights, learn from our mistakes, and hear from guests who have mastered these areas. Step on the path, embracing every challenge and success along the way. See you on the path.
Like a monkey with symbols.
We're back. Oh my gosh. We're still talking, for everybody listening, about our pre-episode clap for the audio marker. We'll get past that at one point, or maybe we never will. But Chris, we are at our 5th and final whole self philosophy series where we're redefining our original definitions that we wrote at the beginning of this year. And it's been easy, beyond hard. It's been a lot of self-reflection, but also a lot of live working things out. So I want to thank the audience. If you've been listening through all 5, yeah, some of the parts have been a little rough as we're wordsmithing, as we're tweaking things live, but that's also where we want to put things out there for everyone to hear, because the process isn't going to happen overnight for any of us as we're thinking about, how do I work on my physical or my mental or my spiritual, or how am I thinking about personal accountability for my life? So I appreciate your patience, but also the whole point of this was just to show it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight. And if it happens overnight, or it's easy for you, please talk to me. I could use some of whatever it is that you've got. I'll take any advice you got. So Chris, we're on the 5th one, strong community.
That's right.
Where did this come from? Like, everybody's heard the tenets in different methodologies of physical, mental, spiritual. Obviously personal accountability makes sense, but why strong community?
That's a good question. We were talking about this quite a bit, and for everybody, yes, these episodes are a workshop. But Colin, you and I have put a lot of time in before and after the recorded portions, just to like really kind of make sure that we're not, just floating out here in the ether. So I will say, just for everybody, that this has really taken a lot of work to get us to this point. And community is an interesting one, Colin, because I think it was really arguably one of the pieces that brought us together in the first place, right? Obviously, just between you and I and our friendship. But then even if I think back to, gosh, I don't know how long it's been, when we were in upstate New York for a bit, I think there was this undertone of like, where the heck is the community, right? Like, there's this idea of like, am I alone in this? Do I have these thoughts, and am I the only one that is thinking this way, or are there others that are thinking this way? And well, wait a second, if I found a couple of ways that work for me, like, how do I share that with others? So I think why strong community is one of the 5 tenets, just on a personal level, is because this is what really became my call to action and yours for how we can start adding value back in. And then as we started developing the whole self philosophy, I think we started realizing like, oh, well, wait, literally everybody plays a role in this. We're all part of a community, good or bad. We are all part of a community. And what is the role in which we play? So I think that's really why it's important. So I think with the old definition, which I'll let you cover here in a second, I think it was a good jumping off point, but I think there's this critical component that wasn't present that I think we can explore now in this new definition.
Absolutely. And I think the only thing I would add is our 4th tenet we just went through in the last episode, personal accountability, was important, but we also knew there's going to be times where you need the help of others, or they need the help of you to not just be accountable, but we don't have it all figured out. And the part of having a strong community is there's all these things we share, but also that those people you trust to help you when you're struggling, or people that look to you for you to do the same. And it's a relationship, right? It's not one-sided. So the original definition of strong community was amplifying accountability through shared experiences, values, and engaging with others to expand our own perspectives on the path. All right. So let's start with the good. What do we still like about this definition?
Accountability. I think accountability is a good word. I actually mentioned this on the personal accountability episode, that when you have that community, it's much harder to, or I guess you could say it's easier, right, to stick to your personal goals if somebody else is out there, right? Like I'll tell you, Colin, sometimes, like, hey, I want to do this thing, and I'm sharing that with you so that you can hold me accountable. So that's where the community comes in. So I think that's an important tone to keep in the new definition.
I think myself, I like the fact that we have on the path in there. And I think we should be keeping it kind of broad here, because if we think about a community and we think about our purpose, well, I imagine there could be shared purpose. We think about sometimes the military, or maybe you're a first responder, maybe you're a firefighter. There might be a shared purpose, but at the same time, we both know that we have different purposes. There's maybe some alignment, but it's very unique. So I like the fact that we kept it broad at the same time, talking about, well, if we're viewing the path and us walking individually, that North Star is our purpose. But with the community, there's some nuances, but it could be adjacent. So we're keeping it semi-broad there, which is important.
Yeah.
What is missing from your perspective?
What is missing? Well, I alluded to this a minute ago, so I'll call it out now. And I think there needs to be two components when we're talking about community, or a strong community. There is one, the community itself, right? I think that is one critical component. But then the other important piece that is currently missing is the role that we as the individual play in it, right? And we were talking about this a little bit before the recording, Colin, but there's that quote that everybody listening is familiar with. You are a collection of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right? This idea of, like, we really just kind of become the persons that we spend our time with. And I think that, yes, although that is true, there's not enough of a tone on, well, that means that there are people in the world where you're like 20% of who they are, right? So who are you, and what contribution do you play in the lives of others? And I think that is missing from the current definition of strong community. So that's where we can explore. It's about the community itself, but then it's also about the role that we play as a member of that community.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think we had it there maybe a little bit at the same time. It is a give and take, right? It shouldn't be viewed as, you've said it a lot, but this isn't a legal document agreement of like you do some, I do some. It's a partnership. Sometimes it's if we're thinking about each, you and I on this as a strong community, sometimes I need to be able to offer you 90% because you're in a tough place and you only got that 10%, or vice versa. So I do think there's a part of this missing that's really clarifying also the role of not only being a member, but also, what that also means for you at the same time. So with that, I know we've been working on, okay, here's a rough draft, refined definition. So why don't you hit us with it?
Okay, so what the working draft here is: a strong community has shared interests, goals, or circumstances that support and create a sense of belonging. A strong community member balances individual needs with the collective good, helping the group thrive while fostering connections, trust, and personal support when needed. So there's one phrase in there that I think is a great addition that we haven't hit on yet, and that's this sense of belonging. I think that is an important component of a strong community. the idea of purpose and how we're choosing to spend our time in our lives, that's an individual experience. But the community, although Colin, your and my purposes are different, we should both still feel like we belong, right? If we're in the same community, we both belong there, right? And the contributions that you make are just as valuable as the contributions that I make. So I think this idea of a sense of belonging is what separates a community from a strong community, right? Because you don't always get to choose your community, which is where that, or your circumstances, that's an important piece to call out.
Yeah, I like the thought. Okay, strong community can mean maybe it is your neighbor, or maybe it is we're all in this, we're all on a professional sports team together. They have very much a shared goals. So when I think about this, I think what's killing me is just the when needed. It's almost like as needed, if applicable, at the end of the whole thing.
I don't disagree with that. I was
can it
thinking that
just
too.
be fostering connections, trust, and personal support and support? Maybe it's not even just personal; it's support, because that can be mutual support potentially.
Yeah, I agree. I think personal isn't.
Maybe it's
needed.
mutual support.
Yeah. So okay. So fostering connections, trust, and mutual support.
So I'm going to read it again, and let's just you take a step back and see how it lands. A strong community has shared interests, goals, or circumstances that support and create a sense of belonging. A strong community member balances individual needs with a collective good, helping the group thrive while fostering connections, trust, and mutual support.
I mean, it's pretty solid. I think the best change is having community and community members called out, and this importance of balancing individual needs with the collective good. Let me ask you, Colin, is there enough ownership on the role that the individual plays in the community? Like, is that present here?
We say a strong community member balances. Maybe we should not say individual needs, like personal needs with I don't like the collective good. It's like with balances personal needs.
What if it's balances personal and community needs?
Yeah, I love it. But we've got maybe we remove like maybe it's as a member. As a member, you balance personal and community needs while the group. Just thinking it through, because I don't want to have it could be a community sandwich for everyone listening. Can you think of another word besides community?
A strong community member balances personal and maybe it's just a strong member.
Ooh.
Balances personal and community needs, helping the group thrive while fostering connection, trust, and mutual support.
Ooh.
Yeah. So a strong community has shared interests, goals, or circumstances that support and create a sense of belonging. A strong member balances community.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Go.
If you go back to the first sentence really fast, it says that support and create a sense of belonging. I wonder if there's something missing about, it's not just support. It's not just a sense of belonging. Sometimes it's just, like enjoying life together, these other moments, we talk about this all the time, but is there something
is that true though? Is that true? Because that would be contradictory to or circumstances, right? Like there are some folks that, may like you use the neighbor example. I think that's a great one. You may not necessarily enjoy, on a personal level, the neighbors that surround you, but that is a part in some way. Okay. If we're talking about community, just from like sheer physical location of where you reside, they are part of that. So I'm not sure that it's always enjoyable. Not always. That doesn't mean it's not an opportunity to grow, and it certainly doesn't mean it's not an opportunity to contribute. But does it have to be enjoyable? Because that might be contradictory to that, like circumstances that people don't get to control.
Ooh, I think I've got one additional edit, but let me just get us there by saying the original definition was amplifying accountability through shared experiences, values, and engaging with others to expand our own perspectives on the path. So maybe the end of the last sentence is while fostering connections, trust, and mutual support on the path.
Mutual support on the path. Okay. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, okay. So hit us with the final.
Okay, I have it. And I have, just for you, Colin, everybody listening, Colin and I are doing live edits on a Word doc. So I have at the very bottom of our document, Colin, is where I'm just making notes on what we're talking about now. So
are you saying you won't remember our updated definition verbatim as soon as we log off?
Not yet.
I could do that easily.
Okay. The updated definition: a strong community has shared interests, goals, or circumstances that support and create a sense of belonging. A strong member balances personal and community needs, helping the group thrive while fostering connections, trust, and mutual support on the path. It's not bad.
No.
It's not bad. I think it's in a good spot. I had a feeling this one would come together, a little bit more quickly than some of the other tenets that we've done. But I think it's. I want to believe
every time you say that, we both just go back to spiritual. I didn't really sleep the night before. We're both like, oh, we have to also really deep dive. What is spirituality to us? But then this one, we've all been in that place, or I hope we have, and I hope if you haven't, you find it one day in your life where you're like, this is just a really good group of people where I can be myself, and I feel like they support me, and they know that I support them as well. And whatever that shared interest, goal, or circumstance.
Completely agree, and I think it's kudos to us for having this in here, because I cannot understate the importance of community as one of the 5 tenets. Like, I think from a selfish lens for a second, having a strong community makes us better, right? Especially if we curate the good people that we should have in our corner, that's only going to make us better. But there's also, for everybody listening, it is the role that you play as well. This should absolutely be a call to action for all of us, that we are, good or bad, a contributing member of the communities in which we find ourselves. And at the end of the day, do you want to be a good contribution or a bad contribution to that community? So that's why this is here, is an opportunity for us to really think about, like, what value are we pouring into other people's lives? That should be fundamental in how we operate. It can't just be all about us all the time. It's a more rich life when we think about the impact that we have on others too. And so that's why I think this is a critically important tenet to keep within the whole self philosophy. And I think it's really kind of what brings all of this together, Colin, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, holding ourselves personally accountable, and then how that permeates within the broader community. So I think across the 5, I think it's solid.
I like it. Yeah, I know what is next. So we are getting close to the end of the year.
That's right.
This is our 5th and final refining of the whole self philosophy. I really think one of the ways we'll wrap up this year is, okay, what does this all look like, but put together, and it's probably going to require some additional refining, but at the same time, we have sincerely learned a lot this year, and obviously I don't believe that you and I rushed the initial definitions, but I love the fact that having these conversations with different guests with different backgrounds and different expertises has broadened our views of what these actually can mean for each of us on the path. And it's not even humbling, because it's just exciting that, I don't know it all, but part of this podcast, our own community, is there's a lot we can learn from others at the same time as well, and continue to grow. So it's been awesome. I've actually learned a lot from you too at the same time.
Yeah, same. I think in one comment you made there around like the original definitions versus these refinements, I agree, Colin. I don't think it was a lack of effort in the original definitions. I think, if anything, this miniseries has been a sign of just growth on our end of how this has changed. And I have no illusions that these definitions might continue to refine over the coming, months and years. It's just, we've learned a ton in the time that we've done this. So yeah, I think it's in a really good place. I think a good thought experiment for you and I will be, all right, now we've done all 5. Let's look at them on one sheet of paper and see how they all blend together. How does it all come together? So for everybody listening, if you're an avid fan that has listened to every word, let this be our disclaimer that the refined definitions might change a little bit from what's in this mini series. And I think, Colin, maybe what we ought to do is just either, maybe early on next year, we can kind of roll out okay, on the path in 2025, what does the whole self philosophy mean? And then kind of put our flag in the sand on what each of the 5 tenets is, just in case there's a couple more small tweaks that we make.
Yeah. And I think with that too, that sounds like a great episode to, one, how do we kickstart next year? But also before we end this year, because we are in the holiday season,
That's right.
Just sitting down and thinking through live, what did we learn this year? What worked well? What we might need to refine holistically, but also what viewers and listeners can expect for next year. Because we've got some exciting adjustments to continue to bring you this content live, but also being way more targeted and focused, and with some exciting new guests too, and some familiar faces. Not just our 2 faces, other familiar faces.
Well, we'll be there too, but yes.
Oh yeah. I thought that was unspoken, but
yeah.
Chris, with that, this was awesome, and honestly, easy and beyond challenging at the same time. But it's been an honor, and with that, I'll see you on the path.
See you on the path.